It's not that this should be Mike Shula's last chance to right the ship and figure things out as the OC against Oklahoma. It's that it has to be his last chance. And if he does not perform well, he has to go. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Monday. Like I always say, if that's even possible, we got a good show for you. We got a quick show for you, but we got a good one, and I think it's about a topic a lot of you feel pretty passionate about. So, here's the thing. We're going to get into Mike Shula. We're going to be positive still about the game this week, but I'm going to get into why this has to be his last chance. Before we do that, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Here's the thing, okay? We're going to get into it. We're going to start talking about the Mike Shula thing. In this next segment after that, we're going to start getting into a little bit of more in-depth about why Lonnie Teasley left and some of the numbers that have come out that kind of support that decision and why I think Shane Beamer made an incredible decision, and also what we think Sean Elliott can do there. And then last but not least, some terrible news that we I'm sure you guys have seen by now. I'm recording this Monday night. It's going to go out Tuesday morning. Chloe Kidd's torn ACL, out for the year. We're going to talk about that in the next segment as well. Let's start with what I opened with, and that's this. This has to be Mike Shula's last chance. It has to be Mike Shula's last chance. And let me preface by saying I like Mike Shula as a person. I think he has got a tremendous wealth of knowledge as an OC and a play caller and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. Sometimes fits don't work, and this isn't working. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at this that I can talk myself out of it, to be honest, because part of me thinks that LaNorris, if this is his last season, he doesn't deserve to have multiple OCs and have to go through this like kind of turmoil and midweek all that kind of, or mid-season or anything like that. But here's the other thing too. I said this yesterday on the show, and it kind of spawned this whole thing and continued this like feeling that I felt stronger and stronger about the more I thought about it. You're in danger of wasting one of the best athletes that's ever stepped foot on this campus. George Rogers, Jadeveon Clowney, maybe John Abraham, maybe Lattimore, maybe any of the receivers, because there's so many. Sidney Rice, Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, there's a ton, right? And you guys, I'm sure you're rattling off other names too, but here's the bottom line without getting into the history stuff. You're in danger of wasting a unicorn that's on your campus right now. A local kid that you brought in, recruited, and put him as the starter. A kid that came into the season with expectations to be potentially in New York for the Heisman. We're 6 games in. He has 5 touchdowns. I would much rather win games than have a quarterback that is putting up crazy numbers and you're 2-4. I get that, but you're 3-3, and he has 5 touchdowns in 6 games. And there's a lot of people in this fan base that are so frustrated with what's going on. It's somehow turned into this is LaNorris's fault. I've seen people that I respect even saying it, and it's fine to be objective and objectively, like watch the tape and say, like, listen, he does hold on to the football too long sometimes. Totally get it. There are reads that he sometimes misses. But I'm going to read you 2 stats that I want everyone to hear, and then I want everyone to shut up. Okay? This past weekend, and this is part of the second part of the show too. This past weekend, there was a comment that was made, or there was a stat that happened where it was, let me make sure I'm not misreading this because it's a good one. The teams in college football for week 7 alone who had the highest pressure rate without blitzing, LSU was 72%. 72%. They had pressure on the quarterback on 72% of downs, and they weren't blitzing on those downs. Here's the other teams that were around them. Liberty, Georgia Tech, who was playing Virginia Tech, Texas Tech, who boat raced somebody. Fresno State, Boise State, Kent State, Rice, Bowling Green, James Madison, Rutgers. Here's something I can tell you. I don't know what teams a lot of those other teams were playing. I don't know who Fresno played. I don't know who Kent State played. I don't know who Bowling Green played. Actually, I think they played like Miami of Ohio. But James Madison, I don't know who any of those teams played. I do know whatever team those teams were playing are G5 schools that are not very good and have terrible offensive lines. I'm fully also aware that you had 4 offensive linemen down. But this is the experience this kid's having right now. This is the experience he's having. Do you want to hear something crazy? Do you want to hear something absolutely effing insane? And we're getting closer and closer to me just losing my job because I'm going to drop an F-bomb out of frustration. Here's something crazy for you. I told you that LaNorris Sellers finished the game with 19 yards rushing with 22 attempts. It's 8 more attempts he's had in any game this year, and he had 19 total yards to show for it. His total distance traveled during the game was 894 yards. That's a real stat. It's a real stat. Cole Kubik tweeted out. It's from Teamworks that keeps track of all these analytics. Here's the thing. You can get mad about LaNorris Sellers all you want. At some point, you got to figure out if Mike Shula deserves to be here for the rest of this season. Because I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I'm buying in for this week. You're only a 4.5-point underdog. We know what this team's capable of from last season, or we know what the coaching staff was capable of last season when they were 3-3. I'm not giving up at all. But if we're being honest, and you start talking about what the teams that are left on that schedule, and you lose this one, which you're supposed to lose, if you lose it and you don't have 400 yards of offense, and you only put up 17 points, and you go through another game where it's like, geez, like it was okay at first to try and get it figured out, but like at some point, Dowalagas did it last year. You find open receivers, you scheme guys open, you figure out ways to have guys making an emergence in the passing game. Dalvin Campbell's a guy like that late last year. Like there are players that should have emerged by now, or at least been more involved in the games or in the game plans. If you do not show some sort of significant increase and progress forward, he's got to go. He's got to go, because here's the part that sucks, guys. Here's the part that sucks. If he stays, what's next? Alabama at home. Now, keep in mind, Alabama's coming off like 4 games against top 20 opponents. But Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M, Coastal Carolina at home, Clemson at home. You will be favored in one of those games. How many games, realistically speaking, do we feel comfortable with of them winning if they lose this one? Not a lot. Not a lot. And listen, this is not all Shula's fault to have. 4 offensive linemen out is insane. The attrition that's happened this year is insane. But you know what else is insane? Having a guy like LaNorris Sellers, like being able to snap the football to him every play, and this is the production level we've had so far. I am not in the camp that I think he's regressed. I think everything around him that they have put in place has plateaued or regressed itself. I'm not trying to point the finger at everyone but LaNorris, but there's just you and I feel like we could probably go out there and scheme up something to get that kid more than 5 touchdowns in 6 games. And again, it'd be one thing if the run game had been going and it's like, well, we can't run LaNorris all the time. Faison's like on pace for a 1,200-yard season. Fuller is on pace for an 800-yard season. Where the rushing attack's been over 200 yards per game. No, you're ranked 15th or worse in almost every category in the SEC. You're ranked 100th or worse in every category that we talked about yesterday in the country. So here's the thing: you've already shown that you're willing to cut ties and part ways with things that are no longer serving you in this season, and that sucks in a lot of ways. But in my opinion, it has to be the decision made come Monday. If you go back out there against Oklahoma and you lose, and I don't care if you lose by 4 or you lose by 30. If you go out there and you lose and the offensive performance is, hey, man, they had 330 yards of offense again. They had about 10 rushing on 40 attempts and 180 in passing. That doesn't add for 330 or whatever I said, but you know what I mean. No, it doesn't. All right? No. But like the whole point is if you have some mediocre performance where you're not like, dude, throw for three, like the Missouri game, you threw for 300, you still had less than 300 total yards. I'd almost be fine with that. But like we're at the point of the season and the Mike Shula experience where it's no longer good enough to say, hey, well, listen, we were better on third downs. Did you see that? We ran the ball for over 4 yards a carry. Did you see that? Like, yeah, that's all good, but that is crap that should have been the standard of what you were going to play to going into the season. We have a lot more to get to. I'm going to take a quick break, and as normal, we're going to go back into the second. We're going to push back the Teasley stuff and get back into this as soon as we come back. Now, before we do that, we're going to pay some bills. Real quick, I want to talk to you about our friends at Wayfair. Wayfair is an incredible value add to anyone that is either moving, trying to redecorate, or do anything in between. You guys have heard me talk about them before. You're going to hear me talk about them again. The holidays are going to be here right before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe your serverware needs to be refreshed, or the guest room could use new bedding. Like us, we need new curtains for the guest room, because whoever lived here before us had a bunch of pineapple stuff up there. And if you guys know anything about pineapples and couples, it's not the best look. So Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for everything in the house. I tell you what, get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Also, quick shout out to our friends at FanDuel. Big fan of these guys. You guys know that. And I'll continue to be as well. But right now, there are a lot of good deals. It's best time ever to sign up with them. The NFL season's here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Think about what I'm saying here, guys. We did it. We have a couples account now. That's how we're going to shop with Wayfair, is what we went on there. But right now, new customers, you can sign up. You place a $5 bet. If that $5 bet wins, you win $300 in bonus bets. It's right. It's that easy. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets used across the app. What are you waiting for, man? At this point, visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get it started. We'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks after this. All right. So I kind of teased in the beginning of this. I was going to talk about Teasley in the second part. Kind of went into the numbers that I already was going to get into in the first part when I was defending LaNorris. I know that there are differing opinions on this, and I'm not sitting here trying to get into an argument saying that LaNorris Sellers is not guilty or somewhat to blame or hasn't like played up to the standard or expectations that we thought he might. That's all fine and fair. I don't care about that argument. I just don't care about that argument right now. At the end of the season, sure. Because here's the thing too. You can sit here and bitch and moan about LaNorris all you want. Where do you think this team is without him? I mean, like that's not even a shot at Cutter Boley or Aaron Nolan or anything like that. But where do you think this team is without him? The one interesting part of the Teasley thing is some of the relationships he had with some of the recruits. Darius Gray mentioned that was a huge part of him and of him committing to South Carolina. I don't know what it does in the long term. I'll talk to some guys from LSU this weekend, hear what they have to say about. I'm sure that they made some phone calls as soon as he went through, and then I'll also talk to some people on South Carolina staff, hopefully, and figure out if there's whatever the latest is with some of those things. Here's the other part of that, though, guys. If you're talking about, that coaching staff being the deciding factor, it's awesome to be able to recruit well. That's great. But the other part of that is he's not only a recruiter, he's also a coach. And the position that he's coaching, you're not developing anybody. So it's like at that part, you have to, like this season, it was just an unacceptable performance. That's a perfect segue into the thing with Shula, because I look at Shula and I'm like, listen, man, I was very high on him coming in, and admittedly, so I'm wrong first and foremost, right? Feel free to dunk on me in the comments and how stupid I was, what an idiot for saying that he should do well. Here's what I'm basing that off of in the preseason. You have arguably the best quarterback talent-wise in the country. He is going to be a first-round pick. I know there's people that think he is not talented enough to do it. I brought it up yesterday. He's going to be a first-round pick unless he stays. But if you sit here and you look at like all the talent that you had at your disposal, all the influx of talent you had coming in, but even with the offensive line, what it was supposed to be, the freshman receivers, all that kind of stuff, there were no injuries to the skill position players that were so significant that you should have been hampered this bad. The offensive line part sucks, but like, and Sellers going out against Vanderbilt sucks. I think we're all also on board with the fact that, like, at this point, is him staying in that game mean you win it? I don't know. It's probably a lot closer, but I don't know if you win it at this point. You had Faison, who was supposed to be a massive part of this offense. He gets added late and full go like the week of the first game. So like you're going into the season fully loaded with all this stuff, and this is what we have seen over the first 6 games. The scary part here is I do think you're in danger of this thing kind of going off the rails if you don't win this game. This team will fight their ass off, and so will all these players. I have zero doubt on that. I have zero. There doesn't seem to be any quit in this team besides Michael Smith, who left a couple weeks ago. Like, they all seem to be fighting their ass off and playing for something more than the last name on the back of the jersey. That's awesome. But if we're being honest, if you lose this game to Oklahoma, then you're staring at Bama, and then you got a road trip at Ole Miss, and then you got a road trip at A&M and Coastal Carolina, and then you get Clemson at home. I think you can win several of those games. I think you can beat Oklahoma. Like I think Vegas thinks you can beat Oklahoma. 4.5. Coastal Carolina should be a dub. Clemson, they're playing better. That feels like it could also be a dub the way you played them last year. But, like, here's the thing. If you go into Clemson at your 4-7 or 5-6, and that has to be a win for a bowl, right now, winning that game feels like maybe the biggest win left on this schedule and maybe the biggest win of the season. You don't have really anything under your belt that's like a landmark win, right? You beat Kentucky, you beat South Carolina State, you beat Virginia Tech. And so you should beat Coastal. But, like, if you're trying to get to 6 and get to a bowl, what bowl game are we talking about where it's like it's worth investing this much more time and energy into what we think might be a finished product of like or the ceiling of what we are able to get out of this offensive system? Something has to change. Like, something has to change. There's a part of me that thinks about this and it's like, man, screw it. Go 5 wide. Like screw it. Like, run power. Like, run the triple option. Do something or do anything that makes us feel they're at least making an effort to do something different. Because right now, there were improvements in Baton Rouge. There were improvements in the run game. They ran the best I feel like they did all year, right? I thought they played the best that they had all season in the run game. But then, of course, the passing game kind of faltered. Now, it's a really good defense, but you're going up against a really good defense this week. So I think at some point you have to kind of just make your line in the sand and say, okay, look, we get it. The schedule's tough. You've been given, like, not the best hand because of what you have in the offensive line and like all that kind of stuff. But, like, this is what we have. And you were already underperforming when it was fully healthy. Like, it was already underperforming. There's still the questionable play calls aren't because the 4 offensive linemen are out. The questionable play calls are because, like, that's the play calls that you're coming up with. At some point, you got to at least make an effort to do something different, because that whole definition of insanity thing, like, we're doing the same thing over and over, then we're just like, oh, like, maybe it'll be better this week. And it's not been any better. So I think you have to figure out a way to get Mike Shula into a place where he is like maybe it's a Billy Napier type situation where it's like, hey, you know what? Like, your job is on the line. Go keep your job. We want you to be here. There's a reason why we hired you. We felt good about it. Go keep your job. But there's also a part of this where you look at it big picture wise and you think, okay, if it doesn't change immediately, like, if it doesn't get better immediately, you are staring potentially at 4-8 right in the face. And that is a catastrophe. That is a catastrophe with this roster. Remember, we talked about the roster is like the best roster they have had since in over a decade. You had, I think, 30% more 4- and 5-star recruits on this roster than you did on last year's team that was so good. You're lacking in so many places, but where you're most notably lacking is on offense. And that can't happen with the talent that you still have, regardless of how it's performing, or like you have to figure it out, man. You have to figure it out. Oklahoma is a defense where, like, Auburn was close on several plays where they could have broken that thing open or pulled ahead or even won that game. We saw Michigan have some success in the run game against them. Auburn in the passing game at times, like when they wanted to. But there's also there's a big challenge in front of you. We're done with the whole thing. There's like, well, yeah, of course. That was a really good team we just played. Like, every team that you play in the SEC is going to be a really good team. So if you lose this one, I think he's got to go. I fully believe that you've already shown the conviction that you're going to make this program better and this team better, and you're doing what it takes to, like, with the evaluation of, hey, this needs to get better or we're done. And if it doesn't get better here, I hate to say it, but you're in danger of the fans not really checking out, because South Carolina fans don't have that in them. But there's not a lot of hope left if you don't. All right, I have to run real quick because I have to go film another podcast for us tomorrow. That's when we're going to get to the Chloe Kit stuff. We'll move that to tomorrow and all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope the honesty isn't too much. I hope it's received well. I appreciate all you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, go Cox.